In the last 12 months, something has shifted in the Sahel that Western capitals didn't predict, and some still refuse to fully accept. Chad, a nation that was supposed to remain a bulwark of Western security architecture in West Africa, has quietly joined an alliance that is systematically rewriting the rules of engagement across the entire region. The African Union is watching, ECOWAS is scrambling, and Paris, which once moved troops and directed policy across this territory with near absolute authority, is now facing a political reality it has not experienced in 50 years. What was unthinkable 2 years ago is now operational. What Western analysts predicted would collapse has instead consolidated. And at the center of this transformation is a military decision that signals not just a change in alliances, but a fundamental shift in how an entire region intends to control its own destiny. This is how a geopolitical order begins to crumble. Chad's decision to formally join the Alliance of Sahel States alongside Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger marks the most significant realignment of power in West Africa in a generation. But this is not merely a diplomatic gesture or ceremonial membership. This is a structural reorganization of security, sovereignty, and strategic autonomy that is being enforced on the ground with unprecedented speed and coordination. Roads are being built where foreign military convoys once operated freely. Supply corridors are being secured under exclusively African control. Minefields are being cleared methodically. Airspace is being patrolled by regional forces, not foreign ones. Borders are being hardened against external interference. And all of it is designed to be permanent, not provisional. For decades, the Sahel operated under an unspoken assumption. Security problems were to be solved through foreign intervention, foreign expertise, and foreign military presence. France established Operation Barkhane. The United States positioned special operations teams across multiple countries. European nations invested in training missions and intelligence sharing. This was not presented as occupation. It was framed as partnership, technical assistance for weak states struggling against terror. But what started as cooperation gradually became something closer to control. Foreign militaries not only fought insurgencies, they made operational decisions. They determined where African armies could operate. They extracted intelligence without meaningful reciprocity. They enforced strategic priorities that were not always aligned with the nations hosting them. The Sahel's new leaders, foremost among them Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, identified this dependency as the core problem, not the solution. When states cannot control their own territory without permission from external powers, they argued, those states are not truly sovereign. When military operations require coordination with foreign capitals, national security becomes a secondary concern to geopolitical alignment. When development projects depend on foreign approval, economic autonomy becomes impossible. The argument was logical. The conclusion was radical. If the Sahel's problems were partly the result of external dependence, then the solution required external independence. Chad's military establishment understood this calculus better than most. The Chadian armed forces have spent 50 years building one of the most capable militaries in the Sahel, not through inheritance, but through necessity. Chad sits at the intersection of multiple conflict zones. It borders Libya to the north, Sudan to the east, the Central African Republic to the south, and Nigeria to the southwest. It has defended its territory against Libyan invasion, Sudanese incursion, and sustained terrorist campaigns. Its military is battle-hardened, operationally sophisticated, and deeply embedded in the region's logistics and intelligence networks. When Chad's leadership under Mahamat Idris Déby Itno chose to align with the AES, it was not a desperate move toward an uncertain alliance. It was an institutional decision based on military calculation. What Chad brings to this alliance is critical. It brings logistical power, the ability to move supplies, coordinate operations, and maintain supply lines without depending on foreign infrastructure. It brings geographic positioning, control over transportation corridors that connect the Sahel to Central Africa and beyond. It brings military credibility, a force that has proven it can fight and win against multiple threats. And it brings something subtler but equally important. It brings a transition point between the Sahel and Central Africa, breaking the geographic isolation that has historically made the AES seem like a discrete regional bloc fighting alone. The speed of infrastructure development reveals the strategic intention here. This is not reactive, short-term military construction. The roads being built in Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and now Chad are being developed for permanence. They are designed to remain functional for decades, to support regular traffic, to enable rapid military deployment, to facilitate trade without foreign intermediaries. The mine-clearing operations are systematic and continuous, a long-term engineering commitment that signals these nations intend to control every square kilometer of their territory. The airspace enforcement is being conducted by regional air forces, not contracted to foreign militaries. The border security operations are being managed by African forces, not supervised by international advisors. This matters because infrastructure is political. When a nation controls the roads within its own territory, it controls commerce, movement, and military deployment. When a nation clears its own mines, it reclaims its own land. When a nation patrols its own airspace, it exercises its own sovereignty. The AES is not just fighting terrorism. It is systematically eliminating the material conditions that made external dependence necessary. The implications for France are perhaps the most visible. Operation Barkhane, which at its peak involved nearly 5,000 troops deployed across 5 nations, has been systematically shut out. Mali expelled French forces in 2022. Burkina Faso followed in 2023. Niger, despite hosting the largest U.S. military presence in West Africa, has made clear that French military operations are unwelcome. And now Chad, which had hosted French military operations and logistical infrastructure for decades, is moving toward a security model where French participation is peripheral or entirely unnecessary. From Paris's perspective, this represents not just a loss of military influence, but a collapse of the entire post-colonial security framework that has anchored French power in Africa since the 1960s. The United States finds itself in a marginally more complex position. The U.S. military footprint in the Sahel is smaller than France's was, but strategically significant. The U.S. operates drone bases, hosts special operations forces, and conducts intelligence operations across the region. However, the U.S. has been more cautious in its engagement, more willing to accommodate African preferences, and less visibly invested in the kind of permanent military presence that France maintained. This has given the U.S. some diplomatic flexibility. Niger's decision to expel French forces did not immediately extend to the U.S., though the military situation there remains volatile. But the broader trend is unmistakable. The Sahel's new order is designed to minimize external military presence, period. This creates an unusual situation where the AES nations are not simply shifting from Western alignment to, say, Russian or Chinese alignment. They are attempting something more ambitious and more fragile: autonomous security management. They are not inviting Russian troops to replace French ones, or Chinese advisors to replace American ones. They are declaring that they will manage their own security, develop their own military capacity, and coordinate their own operations without permanent foreign military presence or external operational control. Is this strategically viable? That question now divides serious analysts. The pessimistic assessment suggests that the AES lacks the intelligence capability, the drone technology, the satellite imagery, and the advanced military equipment necessary to counter a sophisticated terrorist threat. Without French or American support, the argument goes, the Sahel will descend into chaos. The optimistic assessment counters that the Sahel has been descending into chaos for 2 decades despite massive foreign military investment. That foreign presence has arguably made the security situation worse by creating incentives for terrorism and by preventing the development of autonomous regional capacity, and that the only path to actual stability is one where Sahelian nations themselves are forced to innovate, invest, and take responsibility for their own security. The truth, as is often the case, likely sits somewhere between these extremes. The AES nations have demonstrated competence and commitment. Mali and Burkina Faso have expanded their military forces and conducted successful operations. Niger has integrated advanced training and equipment into its own military structure. Chad brings significant institutional capability. Together, they represent a military force that is measurable and increasingly effective. But they also face the largest terrorist challenge in Africa. They operate with limited intelligence technology, and they have limited access to the kind of advanced equipment that Western militaries take for granted. What we are witnessing, however, is a deliberate choice to bear these risks in exchange for sovereignty. This is not a new phenomenon in international relations. Nations throughout history have chosen strategic autonomy over strategic comfort, accepting greater security risks in order to eliminate foreign control. What makes the Sahel case distinctive is the regional coordination and the speed of implementation. The AES is not a single nation declaring independence from a patron. It is 4 nations moving simultaneously to establish a common security architecture that collectively gives them the leverage, the capacity, and the legitimacy to operate without external permission. Chad's military integration into this system is accelerating this process. It is not just adding bodies to the alliance, it is adding institutional capacity. The Chadian military has experience coordinating complex operations across vast territories. It has experience managing supply lines through hostile environments. It has experience integrating different force structures. These are not trivial capabilities in the context of regional military operations. The question now becomes, what does the world do with this new reality? Western powers have 3 broad options. They can attempt to reverse it, to undermine the AES, support counter-coups, and restore the conditions under which they maintain military presence. This is theoretically possible, but increasingly difficult and diplomatically costly. They can accept it, to withdraw gracefully, maintain diplomatic relationships, and accept that they will no longer control security outcomes in this region. Or they can try to manage it, to maintain some military presence, some intelligence relationships, and some influence while acknowledging that the old model is dead. France appears to be moving toward a version of the first option, attempting to pressure these nations and maintain influence through diplomatic and economic mechanisms. The United States appears to be moving toward a version of a third option, maintaining some presence while acknowledging changing realities. Both approaches are contested and uncertain in their outcomes. What is clear is that the AES, with Chad now fully integrated, is establishing facts on the ground that become increasingly difficult to reverse. Every road built, every mine cleared, every successful operation, every day that the region maintains security without foreign military presence makes it harder to argue that foreign intervention is necessary. It does not matter if the security situation improves slowly or remains challenging. What matters is that the burden of proving that the AES cannot succeed is now on those who defend the old system, not on those building the new one. This brings us to the deeper geopolitical question. Does the Sahel's move toward autonomy represent a regional adjustment within the broader Western-dominated global order? Or does it signal something larger? Is Chad's alignment with the AES a one-off decision by a single military-backed government? Or is it part of a broader pattern of African nations reasserting control over their own security and development? The evidence suggests both things are true simultaneously. There is a genuine Pan-African movement towards sovereignty and autonomy, accelerated by the failures of foreign military intervention, the rising costs of Western partnerships, and the success of countries like Ethiopia in establishing military autonomy despite international pressure. At the same time, Chad's decision is influenced by its specific geopolitical position, its military capacity, its leadership dynamics, and its particular relationship with the broader Sahel context. Other African nations, facing different circumstances, may make different choices. What we can say with confidence is that the old model, where African security was managed by external powers with minimal meaningful African input, is ending. The question is whether what replaces it will be African-led regional coordination, as the AES hopes, or fragmentation and competition that invites a different set of external actors. The critical next phase will reveal which trajectory dominates. If the AES can maintain coordination, continue its infrastructure development, reduce terrorism-driven instability through its own efforts, and prevent coup cycles and internal conflict from destabilizing the alliance, then it will have demonstrated that the autonomy model works. If it fractures under pressure, if terrorism surges despite AES efforts, if economic isolation begins to bite, or if competing interests within the alliance lead to conflict, then the entire narrative of Sahelian autonomy will face serious challenges. Chad's role in this will be decisive. Its military can provide the operational backbone that holds the alliance together. Its geographic position can enable or constrain the alliance's reach. Its economic stability can either reinforce or undermine the alliance's sustainability. Should Chad falter, through internal instability, economic collapse, or geopolitical pressure, the entire AES project becomes more fragile. Conversely, should Chad prove stable, operationally effective, and committed to the alliance's longer-term vision, it transforms the AES from an interesting regional experiment into a genuinely consequential force that can no longer be dismissed or isolated. This is where the stakes become clear. What began as a dispute over foreign military presence in Mali has evolved into a fundamental question about how the Sahel will be governed, who will control its resources, who will benefit from its economic development, and whether African nations can successfully assert sovereignty against the institutional inertia of post-colonial global arrangements. Chad's decision to join the AES is not the endpoint of this question. It is the moment when that question becomes unavoidable, and the answer starts to matter in ways that reach far beyond the Sahel itself. The roads being built are physical embodiments of this larger shift. Every corridor secured is a statement that the Sahel intends to control its own future. Every successful operation conducted by AES forces is proof that African military capacity can be developed and deployed effectively. Every day that passes without French or American control over security decisions is a day closer to establishing that the old model was not inevitable, just habitual. What happens next could redefine not just the Sahel, but the broader relationship between African nations and external powers. It could establish a precedent that other regions follow, or it could collapse under its own contradictions. But either way, the moment of choice has passed. The Sahel is no longer playing by the old rules, and Chad's military integration into the AES is the institutional embodiment of that transformation. Paris knew this when French troops withdrew. Washington understands this as it recalibrates its African strategy. The African Union acknowledges this even as it navigates the complexity of supporting regional autonomy while maintaining continental unity. And every leader in the Sahel confronting their own security challenges is watching to see whether the AES model proves viable. The outcome will shape African geopolitics for a generation. And it all hinges on whether four nations, together, can actually deliver on the sovereignty they have claimed.